What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Steep Stuff Podcast. I'm your host, James Lariello, and today I'm so excited to bring you guys an episode with none other than Adam Loomis, current resident of the Wasatch, Park City guy. Adam was kind enough to come on the podcast about a week removed from his win at the Telluride Mountain Run 40 mile, where he also set the course record. Really big fan of Adam's. Excited to have him on the podcast. He's an interesting character where he has just so much range in the sport. Not only does he like to race the really short stuff, but he also has a lot of range to be able to race the longer stuff. He's actually taken a podium at Run Rabbit Run, as well as another top 5 finish this year at Speed Goat, where he ran an extremely respectable time. Really fun episode. We talked a lot about Adam's background. We got into Nordic Combined, where Adam kind of got into kind of his formative years, how he got into the skiing realm, and just how it made him such a good trail runner today. And just after that, we got into the Rut, where Adam will be racing in about a week. So talked a lot about the Rut and what makes it such a special race. And we talked a lot about where he wants the sport to go and where he sees himself in the sport in the future. It was a really fun conversation. Big fan of Adam's, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do with the rest of his 2025 season. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this one. None other than Adam Loomis.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
Adam Loomis, welcome to the Steep Stuff Podcast. How's it going, man?
Hey, James, it's going great. As we were just saying, fall seems to be here. And I'm happy to chat a little bit about steep stuff. Kind of like that.
For sure, man. For sure. How was, you just got back from, I mean, I feel like we're the only two people that are not in Chamonix right now. So you just got back from the other Alps, the Colorado Alps. How was your time in Telluride?
Yeah. I was joking with my buddy Garrett from Salt Lake that turns out the Alps are just hiding in the San Juans. Can't complain getting out there for a long weekend, but it was pretty incredible. Yeah, I made kind of a point to take a little extra time and like 5 nights of camping. Raced Telluride Mountain Run's 40, which is one of the better race experiences I've had. It was good stuff.
That's exciting to hear, man. I've heard a lot of really good things about those courses. Like I've heard that's one of the better like mountain races in the lower 48, which is good to hear. Hopefully they keep that race going and keep it alive. Yeah,
I think so. I think everyone that does it is stoked. The ridge line up at over 13,000 to Telluride Peak is like, they have search and rescue out there. The only thing that it's legit ridge running, scrambling. The only thing that's compared that I've done in a race setting was the Minotaur World Sky Race.
Interesting. Which is another fantastic race. That's one that should be. Hopefully, it's a little bummed they got canceled for this year. Were you on the start list for it this year or no?
No, I went last year, and this year was doing Twisted Forks, which was
that's right, Finn's race,
pretty different.
Yeah,
but local
for sure. Dude, did you get a chance to do? I think I was lurking your Strava when we booked this podcast. I saw you did the was it the Telluride Via Ferrata? Isn't that thing sick?
Yeah, it was fun. That was a good mellower recovery day activity. But there's some moments where I was like glad I had brought my slings, and the views are stunning.
Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah. I've never done a Via Ferrata with gear. I've, scrambled through some in Europe a bit, but
epic.
Good time.
Absolutely epic.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm glad you had a good time. Congrats on the win. We'll get into the race
Thank you.
in a little bit because I do want to talk about some of that as well. Dude, when we get started, or before we get started, maybe give the audience like the 5 minute elevator pitch on like your background. Give me everything from like growing up in Wisconsin to like Nordic Combined, and then we'll get into trail running.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I think my background is a little more, I don't want to say unique. Everyone's unique, but takes a little bit of explaining because, yeah, starting with, so I grew up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and was into Nordic skiing from a young age, into cross country, into endurance stuff. And then at 10, I decided to try ski jumping, which we had a local program. We have a local program, which I'm lucky because there aren't programs in every town. And then from that point on, for the next 15 years of my life, I would say more and more the most important thing to me was Nordic Combined, which is the distance ski jumping and cross country skiing, skate racing. And yeah, that gave me the opportunities to make my way west. I ended up in Steamboat Springs for a few years at a development level, and then moved to Park City in 2012 when I made the national team at 2019. I think I was 19 years old. So, which in some ways, yeah, was a little bit of a late bloomer, but persistent in the sport. And then I was a national team athlete based out of here in Park City for 6 years. Got to compete, pretty much at the highest level: World Cups, World Championships, everything but the Olympics, more or less. And yeah, it obviously it was like a dream to get to be living the full-time athlete lifestyle. And I think it taught me a lot. Sports teach you a lot, but it also like brought me into the mountain world, and that kind of set me up for the life I live now. So it's definitely something I wouldn't go back and change things. And also like am fortunate for that upbringing I have, but also am happy to be here in the mountains. I don't know that I could be back to living in more of the flatlands.
The Midwest. It's interesting though about the Midwest, man. I mean, Cam, obviously he's a Midwest guy as well. I meet so many people from whether it's Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota, Michigan, and those winters are just so brutal. Like you just don't see the sun for so long. I did a couple winters in Michigan, and I was just like, oh my God. Yeah, it was, but you guys learn grit. I don't know what it is. Like maybe it's the grittiness that you guys bring with you as like an additional trait. And a lot of really solid like athletes in general come out of the Midwest, which is kind of cool. So
yeah, it's interesting. And yeah, I think it gives you a little perspective and maybe a better understanding of how spoiled we are out west, and especially places like Park City where it's tends to be in the wintertime either sunny or snow and cold smoke. So we're pretty lucky.
It's amazing. How do you like living in Park? Like, I know you're just like right outside of Park City, right? How do you like being in that area? Like, obviously the Wasatch is a dream, but that's kind of it's almost like, I mean, it is a resort town in general. Yeah. With a lot of money coming in and out of it. It's an interesting place, I would imagine. Like, what do you think about as far as like living there?
Yeah. I do live just outside of Park City, but I work here in Park City at the Utah Olympic Park where I'm at now. As you can see from Kimball Junction in Park City. And yeah, Park City is like, as far as ski towns go, it's not like this necessarily small, charming town like Telluride, for example. Although charming maybe isn't the right word either to describe Telluride, right? Like all ski towns have gotten exorbitant in terms of pricing and who lives there and all that. I think the cool thing about Park City is, having the access to Salt Lake, which, it has an airport, obviously, and more jobs that you don't have to, work remote for a tech company or whatever to be able to live here. And yeah, the access to the mountains here, I mean, the Wasatch is pretty incredible. And I feel super fortunate to be able to explore them. And then it's also like, you can drive a few hours or 4 or 5 hours and, get anywhere from the desert to the San Juans or the Tetons, or it's the proximity is pretty good.
Yeah, I gotta say, you're right, man. The location is it's hard to beat. You are so close to the Tetons. And like you said,
Yeah,
Silverton, like the San Juans are not that far either. Like Colorado is pretty good access. And then, the Wasatch in its own right is world class, not just the skiing, but like just the mountain running in general. Like those climbs, I mean, it's very hard to get anything like that in Colorado that's not like in crazy high altitude, right? It's almost like it's just a very special place to be able to train and get fit, in my opinion, at a little bit of a lower altitude so you can get better adaptations, as opposed to being at 12, 13, 14,000 feet in Colorado where you're moving just so much slower. So yeah, I think there's a lot of good stuff there. I was blown away. I stayed in Park City. I went out last year for Cirque Series Brighton, and I stayed in Park City just over the pass. And I was like, oh, wow, I got to come out to here more. This is amazing. Like the access here is incredible. So yeah, you live in an amazing place. Let's get into Nordic Combined. You're the one and only person I think I've ever spoken to that has done Nordic Combined, which is kind of neat. Usually, I've had a lot of Nordic skiers with obviously, like super diverse backgrounds on the podcast. Obviously they get into trail running and like yourself do extremely well. Talk about Nordic Combined and kind of like how that background you think has helped you develop the way you train and helped you develop into such a good trail runner.
Yeah, it's a super interesting sport because you're combining from like a strengths and physical demands. You're combining very, very different sports. Ski jumping is a technical sport that emphasizes power, balance, mobility. I guess power to weight ratio, really, because the ski jumpers trend quite light. And then on the other side of things, cross country skiing is an endurance sport that is more of a full body strength, and then it's got its own technique, which is basically totally different than ski jumping, obviously.
Yeah.
Anyone could see as they watch it. So training for it, you have to pick and choose, like, what do you want to focus on? Obviously you're training for both sports, but you can't just train like a cross country skier and then like show up and ski jump and expect to be able to jump as well, because you're just going to be tired. You're not going to be fast twitch enough if you're putting in the hours that a person like David Norris, Scott Patterson, those mountain runners that are now successful, or that were also cross country skiers. So I didn't train as high a volume endurance hours as those athletes were, and there's times where I'm like, oh man, that would have been nice. But we, I had great coaches that were kind of at the time pretty cutting edge with training theory. A lot of the stuff that you're seeing now is like, I was doing that in 2012. So one of the things is if you can't do as much volume, but we kept the intensities pretty high. I think that kept us pretty close. Like the fastest skiers on our team, and our team tended to trend more towards fast skiing and just trying to get close enough in the jumping, which sometimes it can be tough skiing from the back, but it is fun because you have to ski up in the race because it's the pursuit style race. So anyway, the fastest skiers were often not that far off from some of the faster cross country skiers in the US. So I think I was, one of the biggest things carrying into running is like I had this base of training as well as a lot of intention and purpose to the training that I've been able to continue with.
Interesting. You hit on something that I got to ask you, because you said something about jumpers, obviously power weight ratio. You got to be pretty damn lean, like I would imagine. Mm-hmm. But I know a lot of cross country skiers, and like they're lean guys, but they're also extremely muscular. Like they're a little bit beefier, bigger than, if you will, your average trail runner. How do you find, is the sizing then for the person like somewhere in the middle? Like how I guess it's maybe just a cross country skier then that's not as muscular. Like how does that work as far as size goes? I'm just very curious.
Yeah, I mean, as a little bit of history, ski jumping, it did get to the point around the time when the Olympic Games were here in 2002, where athletes were so light that it was unhealthy. And they came up with some rules. So your ski length, which is the longer your skis are, the more surface area you have. In theory, the better you fly. What they did is they said if your BMI is too low, you need to be on shorter skis. So they started regulating that. But that BMI chart basically created a kind of a benchmark, and it's like you want to be close to that. And in ski jumping, it's like you want to be right on, if not a little below, and skiing on shorter skis. In Nordic Combined, to be competitive at the world level, like you're probably got to be within a couple kilos of that minimal BMI before your ski length starts going down. Which is to say that like it creates a pretty uniform. I mean, obviously everyone's got their unique bodies and not everyone just looks the same, but like height to weight ratio, BMI, like it's a pretty small margin compared to other sports. And so the emphasis is like in the gym strength training is more on training for ski jumping and doing enough core strength and roller skiing in the summertime to be strong in the upper body, but not trying to bulk up like a sprinter, cross country skier. They're going to have definitely some more muscle to them.
Yeah, those guys are much bigger. It's interesting. I just had, I don't know if you know who Michael Earnhardt is. He's a Alaskan mountain runner. Actually, he's an Alaskan.
Oh yeah,
he's an Alaskan Nordic skier who also runs mountains, I should say. But he's a bigger dude. I was like actually surprised that I was like, wow, like you ski, but I guess it makes sense because for his discipline for sprinting, like you got to be a bigger dude. So it's so cool across the different disciplines, like just how the body adapts and how it works. So let me ask you this from just an aerobic standpoint and just a training, like do you work with a coach now for trail running, or do you just kind of do your own thing and just adapt a lot of your training, if you will, aerobic stuff into your trail running?
Yeah, I haven't worked with a coach since 2018 when I retired from Nordic Combined. Part of it, I mean, when I was down skiing, I didn't necessarily foresee that I would be taking trail running to as seriously as I do now. It was kind of just like, oh, let's hop in some races. I did an ultra, I did circ races, which were pretty ideal, having like pretty highly tuned VO2 max sort of training. And yeah, since then, having the background, like I said, I had great coaching, I had good understanding of training theory, and it's also something that I'm super interested in. So I'm, reading books, listening to podcasts, being pretty nerdy about it and staying on top of things. That said, like I'm not saying I know so much I don't need a coach. It's more just like I haven't found that that's something I want. I think at this point I've been doing it so long that I like to be able to make calls as I go. And like this week, I'm coming off, an 8-hour race. Didn't rest a ton after, but the recovery's been pretty good. And I'm like, yeah, I might do a workout tomorrow, but I don't need to. It's totally like I'll make that call and I'll be happy with it. I was just talking about this in Telluride with someone. I'm like, I think I would be kind of a coach's nightmare because my lifestyle, my work is just it's not super consistent and easy to be like we're just going to do this like there's a lot of fluidity, which is fine. Keeps it fun.
Well, it's fine and it keeps it fun. And I also think that like you meet a lot of athletes with coaches, and this is nothing against coaching. I think coaching for the right person works perfectly, but I think there's a lot of rigidity in some degree, and it also depends on the athlete. Like if it's an athlete like with someone like with your background that already has such an established base and understands like heart rate zones and things like that, I don't think it's very hard to adapt that at all into trail running and then make some tweaks here and there depending on how the body feels, right? I think like that type of training theory makes a lot of sense. Where I think people need coaching is more so maybe whether it's accountability and then or if you're an untrained athlete trying to figure things out, or someone that may be trained maybe trying to figure different things out. So yeah, I think it just depends on the person, but I see how it's very easy to cross over on certain things, and it's like it just makes sense. So very cool.
Totally.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, one of the things I found really interesting about you and your background is the range. Like you can run 100-mile races. You just ran a 40-mile race this week, but you like in 2019 you had a great finish at Mount Marathon. A couple year or last year you just had a top 5 finish at Minotaur. Like is it just do you pick races off of like what interests you? Do you pick races off of what sponsors want? Like how do you go about like picking races that you want to do?
Yeah, I would definitely say I do what interests me. Especially this year, and yeah, last year doing the Minotaur. Um, since I got into mountain running, like I said, I started with the Cirque series, um, as well as I did the Whirl that year, and so I was like pretty quickly like, oh yeah, not only do I like this, but I seem to have a knack for moving through technical terrain. Um, and then I did, but I've also found like, oh, I trend towards liking, or it seemed for a while like the longer I went, the better it was. And that was kind of reinforced with the first 100 going super well. I was like, sweet, like every year I'm just gonna strive for 100 as kind of the main focus of the year, um, and lead up to that. And then the next couple of years, like I did not finish 100, at least a race until from 21 till last year, 24. Um, and I think that gave me some humility. Like, yeah, hundreds aren't just gonna be easy. But also this year I was like, yeah, I picked races that were interesting to me. And it's always been something that I respect in runners that show some range, and um, try to do that a little bit myself.
I think it's really cool. The only reason I ask is it's something I've been on for a while now. I've been thinking about is like, man, it really tells a lot about the athlete if they can run 100 miles, but they can also run a really fast 5K, or they can run a Cirque Series race really well and finish in the top 10 or 15. I think there's a very telling thing, to have that type of range, and it's just, nothing against like particular specialists, because I think there's a space for that as
Right.
well. But I think it's really neat,
Yeah.
the very telling thing of like how you've developed your body to be able to withstand, like stuff like that, which is kind of cool. Um,
Yeah.
let's talk. I gotta ask you about like Run Rabbit. Like you went there, you dropped out 1 year. 1 year you also got second place. Like you've had done pretty well there. I know you spent some time and lived there. Was it more choosing that race for homecoming for you, or was it the prize purse, because the prize purse is pretty damn good? Like what about it incentivized and got you excited about that race?
I think it was a bit of both. It was actually quite the odyssey to get to that finish line. I was signed up in 2020, um, and they were one of the races that was going to happen during COVID until a month out. And then they finally pulled the plug. And at that point, it was 100% just like, yeah, that's a cool race in a town I used to live at, in mountains that I'm familiar with, but certainly I hadn't been on all the trails at that point, or seen it from that perspective. And then, then I was like, okay, let's do the Bear. Let's stay local for the next year. And then I was actually signed up again in 2022. After the Bear went well, I think I was starting to think like, oh yeah, like not only does Run Rabbit appeal to me because it is kind of a home race, but the prize money, that's it's hard to ignore that for sure. um, and yeah, that year, a month out, I was feeling like I was in great shape. I was 4 or 5 days out from doing a good 50-mile tune-up, riding my mountain bike a little bit, and crashed and broke my ribs.
Oh, shit.
So that ended that attempt at Run Rabbit. And then the next year, I was again like, this is what I want to focus on. And I was dealing with patellar tendonitis throughout the whole summer. It really flared up at Broken Arrow, which I went out, had kind of a rough experience. But anyways, dealt with that, had a short build, thought I was ready, put myself up there, and then things kind of went to hell.
Damn, dude. What a journey so far.
it for sure. So then in 2024, I actually was like, I need a break. Like I'm going to focus on something else. And And I think that same weekend I was signed up for the rut, which I'm doing this year. But then in July, like things were trending well. I'd done Gorge, Pushers, 200K races that went well. I was like, I think I should go back to Run Rabbit. And I'm glad I did.
Amazing. Dude, well, and I don't know, like one of the things I really like about Run Rabbit, not that I have ever have any intention of running 100 miles. I just find it very nice that they have like a really sizable prize purse and it incentivizes the athletes to go there. Like, I think that's really cool. I think it's one of the rarer things in the sport just because there's not a ton of races with prize money like that. I think it definitely, I think they're paving the way in the sport. Plus, like, there's cool ways to, like, I think it's like teams. They do like a team-based thing as well for other ways to make money, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, they even threw in the gondola preem. So the first, in like 2 miles, you're at the top of the gondola, 2,200 feet up the mountain, which is just an outrageous start to sort of 100. And then to make things even more hot, they threw in $1,000 preem for the first one there, men and women, that finishes the race.
Nice. Did you get any of those extra incentives being in the podium that year?
No, I did not. I really wanted to have a good result more than I wanted to go for that cream. And then my teammate didn't have I think she didn't finish the race, which I can't throw any shade because I was in that boat the year before.
It's a tough one. It seems like it's a tough one to get right for some reason. Like, not that it's that crazy high altitude or anything like that, but for something about that race, maybe it's because the runnability. You tell me. Like, what do you think is so hard to figure out about that race?
Yeah, it's way harder than it looks on paper. Like, it's like 17,000 feet of gain, which for a mountain 100 is like, I mean, that's less than the States. And everyone says States is like a flat race. But it's, it starts at 1 p.m. now for the hares, the elites that are chasing prize money. So if you're fast, you're spending more time or about the same amount of time in the dark as you are in the daylight. And you start typically with some heat, like the temps can be pretty hot still. And it's like super front loaded with the vertical. And then you run downhill after being up high for like 30 miles. It gets wild how long you descend for. And then like right around that time is when it gets dark if you're towards the front. And after we run in the loop around the Emerald Mountain, which is down by their ski and snowboard kind of center there, then you climb back up in the night. And then you're at elevation for like at like 10,000 feet for the last 20 or so miles. So yeah, it's not the kind of elevation we're talking in Colorado, but like it's pretty significant. Yeah. You're just grinding through the night, and like all this stuff that's like should be super runnable becomes a lot harder. So yeah, it definitely gets people. It's surprising how tough it is.
Interesting. So, I think the thing is too, I guess American races too usually start obviously early in the morning. And if you're running, you go into the night, but usually people are pretty pooped by the time they get into the night. So a lot of the, I guess, even some of the elites, like pretty pooped by the time you get through there. So it's like, maybe it's the bulk of the race being at night and not being able to train your stomach as well. And like, I guess that's kind of weird on your, depending on what you're eating, like that probably screws you up as well. Sure. Yeah. I have no intention of doing that. Doesn't sound very fun.
Yeah. I will say doing the bear and finishing at like 1 a.m. I think it was, I don't even know if it was maybe between 12:30 and 1 or something. I was like, that's a half a night. That's a lot easier.
Yeah. That's amazing. I'll take that any day. Yeah. Dude, you just had an amazing result. Top 5 at Speed Goat. Third time running. This year you ran 5:22, which is a very stout time on that course. How was your experience this year? Do you have it seemed like on paper you had a great race. Seemed like you got to run a bit with Grant Barnett. We'll get into him in a little bit. But how was it for you? It seemed like a great result.
Yeah. It was my third time doing it, and it is one of the harder ultras I've done. I mean, every ultra, whatever race you finish last, is the hardest race you've ever done, right? But there's something about Speed Goat, it's super competitive, and it's just like you're just on the gas the whole time. There's no like taking in the flowers, chilling. And I knew that going in, and was like, yeah, I still want to do this race. Why would I pass this up? It's in my backyard, and I think it's the most competitive trail race in Utah. Maybe, yeah, I think it's more competitive than a Cirque Series even. And yeah, with this year's fields, it was an interesting year because we didn't have like David, or we had Michelino, but he wasn't coming in his best shape. So we didn't have someone that we're like, oh, they're going to run 5 hours. And no one's like, no chance. But we had 15 guys probably that thought they could top 5.
Yeah.
So I actually made splits for 5:20 and thought this is a 18-minute improvement on a little bit different course that maybe is a little faster from 2021. And I hope I'm a better runner than I was then. And yeah, overall, it's hard to not. Yeah, I'm happy with that time. It was definitely like, damn, that didn't get on the podium. Like, that's kind of ridiculous, but that's just the level. And I was a little bummed about kind of like things were trending up after the mineral aid station when I broke out my poles, which I debated whether I'd bring them. I brought them and like moved my way, I guess, past Grant, and was not too far behind Anthony. And then ripping down to the Cirque Traverse on that descent, I had some just extreme cramps on both hamstrings and was literally on the side of the trail, like screaming because I was just like, it was debilitating.
Damn, dude.
That's when Eric went by me on his way he was on a mission. But actually it went away, and then I like ran some of the Cirque with him. But I guess what bummed me out the most was just not feeling like my normal confident self descending for the last descent. Like through that talus field, the top, I would normally be like, this is my jam. And I was like, every step, I'm like, when are those cramps coming? And yeah, maybe I would have been able to catch up to Anthony with a few minutes ahead if I had, been really feeling it. But overall, can't complain. And I felt like that experience did give me a little fire to bring to Telluride.
I love it. I love it too. And not to mention you can always go back next year, give it another go. Sure. It's hard for me to comprehend just the level of like muscular strength that you have to have, not just in the posterior chain, but just your quads in general. Like, how much strength work are you doing in front of like before a race like this, just to make sure you can take like that level of up down?
Yeah. So I've been doing strength most of the year, 1 to 2 days a week, really since that patellar tendonitis in 22. Of course, when I was a Nordic Combined athlete, we were doing quite a bit of strength and plyometric training. And then I kind of took a break. I was like, I don't need to do this. I'm just going to play in the mountains. Then you get hurt, and then you realize you got to come back. And I'm fortunate with my work to be in actually like one of the most incredible facilities. We partner with the US ski team and use their training center. And then, so usually I'm in there coaching. I'm able to either stay and work out, or we have a master's group of adults that I tend to work out with them, and kind of, it's like a coach athlete role in there. So I think that is been pretty key to staying healthy and staying strong enough. And then now it's like when I'm in a heavy racing block, that's kind of the first thing that goes, but I'll pick it back up soon.
Interesting. I got to ask you the Grant Barnett question, because you guys used to be teammates on DynaFit, and then you're both on the Wasatch. You're competitors, but you also run together. Like, what's that dynamic like? Like, he's a wild boy. I really like Grant. He's an interesting character.
Yeah, it's been super fun. Yeah, like you said, initially we were teammates with DynaFit. I think at that point I was already skiing with him a bit. And I would say we skied together more than ran when I first knew him. And then, yeah, it's tough because there's just so many running races that we don't always link up. But in skiing, I was definitely stronger. Like he has a little less of a skiing background, so I tend to be at least quicker on the descents, if not the climbs. But then the first time I raced him was at Broken Arrow, and he was fifth that day. He had a great day, and I had one of my worst days in any trail race. So I got demolished, and I was like, okay, guess I'm not just guess yeah. But it was also like he got fifth. I think like that gave me some perspective of like, yeah, if I had the right day, I probably could have been in that mix at the time. And yeah, this year it's been super fun. I guess our little rivalry probably goes back to last fall. He took my DC Peaks 50 miler course record that I'd set the year before, and that's a newer, not necessarily a race you expect to have like a bunch of top dogs. And it was kind of a race I did that I was like, that course record might stick around for a bit, and it only lasted for a year. But I was like, sweet, Grant crushed it. He ran 7 minutes faster than me, I think. So I was happy with that. And then this year, yeah, Twisted Forks and Speed Goat, especially Twisted Forks, we ran like more than half the race together, just like shoulder to shoulder, heel to toe. It was super fun. Speed Goat is a little more back and forth, but we still shared way more miles together at Speed Goat than I did with anyone else probably combined. It's kind of reassuring to be running with someone that you're like, yeah, this is probably the right pace because we're sticking together. And like, you hear kind of commentators talk about somebody working together, and sometimes it's like, dude, it's running. There's no drafting, right? But I think, yeah, there is something to be said for if you're with the right person. There's some benefit for sure.
Yeah. What is that? I mean, you guys are friends. I see. I always love competing against friends because it's friendly.
Yeah.
It's just friendly. Like, you know, if I beat you, we joke around about it. If you beat me, it's still a joke. Like it's fun. How has that part of the relationship developed? Because you guys have been, you know, pretty close in a few races now. Like how's that part?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just made us better friends, which is great. Like, I think it's a testament to Grant, to both of us, just like, yeah, being stoked for each other. His girlfriend said after Speed Goat, you're the only person that's allowed to beat Grant. And Twisted Forks, like, and the moment of separation happened when he started throwing up in front of my brother and his girlfriend who was filming. And like a week later, he's like, yo, dude, is there a video of that? Can you send that to me?
Of course.
Like,
they made the YouTube reel.
I would, yeah, exactly. I guess he's got to do that. But I would have asked for that. I would have been like, dude, I don't want to see that. But so.
How, I got to talk to you about the Salt Lake running scene. I feel like between just like the level has just grown immensely in the last few years. I'd say since, you know, Finn started single track, that's obviously blown up. You've got, you know, Garrett there. You've obviously got Caleb. There's just and now Michelino's kind of there and not there sometimes. Yeah. What is that like? I mean, it seems like there's always people to run with, but what's been your takeaway from just the scene explosion in the last few years?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I remember last year being out on a run when I was like really thinking about it, and it was Garrett who's run a 4-minute mile. It was Caleb, who's now a Western States champion. Tyler Green just moved to town, Western States podiums, you know, like total legend. And I'm like, yeah, this is just like a Wednesday run in Salt Lake. Like, this is wild. And it's super cool to have those people to train with. I've always ran with Caleb a bit. When we can, we try to get together every couple of weeks. And there's always people to run with. Most of them are in Salt Lake, so I gotta maybe work a little more to get looped in. But I'm always happy to meet up in the canyons or whatever. I think it's an interesting perspective that sometimes, you know, whatever world you're in, like you find these little niches, and it is tough to like maintain a normal perspective because like, whatever, like I'll come back from a trip and like after this one, my coworkers knew about my race and they're all like, you're amazing. Like, you know, super nice. But then it's like, there's always people doing, you know, one-upping you. You always see higher level, like you said, right now, everyone's over in Chamonix. It seems that way, right? Like the perspective is just wild when I'm like, oh, it's weird that I'm not in Chamonix right now, which is like not a normal perspective to have. So
Yeah.
try to keep that in check at times.
Now that you've run Speedgo a few times, this year in particular, are you going to use that? I mean, how is it? It's not a. Is it a major? It's not a major, right? Do you don't get an auto
No.
bid into OCC, do you, for that?
So it's a World Series event. It's not a major. The way that works is if you're on the podium, you're auto into that distance right then and there at the award ceremony. And so that was a reason to be kind of bummed about fourth. That was the hope, the goal this year. But then they released the UTMB index, right, based on their algorithm of your time over historical times, everyone else's index. And that was plenty high to get an auto spot.
Sweet.
So Grant, myself, and sixth place as well. I'll have those auto spots to OCC. My plan is to bump that up in distance to CCC and finally make it over there.
Nice. Dude, I feel like you would do really well at a race like CCC. I feel like that would fit you, especially with all the 100-mile distance range that you have, just the range in general, being able to be really good across different distances and kind of go up to that. Like, I think you'd have some success there for sure.
Yeah, thanks. I think 100K is a pretty good distance. It's definitely plenty long to where like fatigue resistance is one of the more important things, and I think that's one of my strengths. But it's, yeah, at some point I want to do UTMB, but it's like maybe a little more controllable in 100K than 100 miles. It's just like a whole nother element where maybe I don't want to race in France the first time at 100 miles. And yeah, certainly this summer I've been excited about breaking out the poles and doing some steep climbs, which I know there's a little bit of a debate with CCC of whether you need poles or not, but for sure I would use them there. And like, I think there's plenty of steep climbing.
I think too, with your background from a Nordic skiing perspective, like you guys can, for some reason, can just use them so much. Well, not even for some reason, but just in general, you guys can use them so much better than an average, even a normal elite athlete. Like, it's got to help you. I mean, whether it's Sinclair or Scott Patterson, like I usually see all those guys usually break out the poles at some point. So
totally, yeah, it's just an extension of your body. It feels like it's easy. It's great.
Yeah. Let's talk about the rut. You're going back to the rut this year. Are you running the 50K or 28K?
50.
Nice. That's the rut is so hard. Like that's such a rough course. Seems to be your jam though. Obviously TMR was a good kind of dry run for that. Same with Speedgo. What's the excitement level to go back in a few weeks and go race?
Yeah. So this is my first rut.
Oh, it's I don't know why I thought you.
Yeah. So I was on the entry list last year.
That's why.
And then I changed my mind, and this year I waited until about July to reach out, and they were fortunate enough to let me in. I mean, I've heard such good things about the weekend. Like it sounds like, it's kind of Speedgoat-esque, but like quite a bit more kind of local Montana flair, which I think is great. And yeah, it sounds like it's some pretty technical stuff. Certainly a lot of time on rock and talus and scree, which not everyone loves, but I tend to have a good time with that. So yeah, again, it's been like a bucket list race, and I'm like, probably shouldn't wait any longer. I should probably get there now. And I think the 50K is definitely a little more my distance. Like, yeah, as much as I appreciate the comments about range, and I like to have some versatility, I think like against guys like Jackson Cole and Cam, like I don't think I have enough specificity in my training towards that couple-hour racing to where the 28K is where I want to put myself. So, obviously it's easy to enjoy what you are better at and trend towards that.
Fair enough. I mean, I got to give Jackson Cole his credit. I finally got a chance to race him at Cirque Series Killington this year, and I was astonished. Jackson's nasty. He's so good.
Yeah, unreal.
If you win the 50K, are you going to get a tattoo? You're going to get the
I kind of feel like if you win a race and you get a tattoo, I don't know if that's like a little more questionable than if you just like do the race and get a tattoo. Like, that seems like it's kind of like wearing your race shirt right after you win the race. Like, give it some time. But a tattoo, you have it for life. So I don't know if I would do that.
Something to think about for sure. No doubt.
I actually got out for a run with Jackson Cole. He was in Salt Lake, and I was joking with him that we could bet each other. If the other person wins, the other person has to get a tattoo.
All right.
which would be funny, but I also was joking because I was like, you're probably going to win. So I don't know that I'm like signing myself up for this.
Oh man, yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, it's not an ugly tattoo. It's just some antlers, so it's like you can
Yeah.
hide it. You can like keep it somewhere where nobody's gonna see it. But it's with you for a while unless you get it removed. But I don't know. It's a
Yeah.
lot to think about
But
there. I don't know.
I think if I had like some just wild experience, yeah, maybe that would be right. But
Yeah, no,
nope.
fair enough. Fair enough. Let's talk DynaFit. You've been with DynaFit for a little bit. What has that partnership been like for you? Are you a combined athlete, more on the run versus ski, on both? Like, how does that work for you guys? Because I know DynaFit is a ski company as well.
Yeah, they're definitely, especially in the US, I mean globally too, but they're more of a ski company and yeah, leading the fast and light and skimo world forever. Um, I got connected with them in like 2020 through a good buddy of mine, Logan Great Honest, that worked there for a little bit. And they have been a perfect fit in the sense of, yeah, covering both sports and providing equipment on both sides and some sport on both sides. Skimo equipment is certainly not cheap. So that's been awesome to work with those guys. And I work with a North American team and have developed, a good relationship with them and enjoy that support for sure. They're definitely not a huge player in the trail running world, especially in the US. And I think, yeah, we'll see like if they can continue to work into the market more with, mountain running. Certainly trail running is growing. It's whether mountain running, kind of more the extreme side, is as much. A little bit hard to say, but I mean, like in Salt Lake, Skimo Co. Now has Skyrun, right? Which is like Salt Lake's mountain running shop.
So cool.
There's certainly a good fit there.
Yeah. No, that's an amazing fit. I think DynaFit's good. And dude, their shoe technology has gotten, I feel like, it's improved drastically in the last few years. Like even their Ultra 100s are dope now. Like their shoes pretty solid.
Yeah, they actually have I have a pair of next year's Ultra 100s, which have quite a bit better foam. I was surprised not to see Hannes running in those at Western States. But he was in the Ultra DNA, which is a shoe I've raced in quite a bit, which again has a supercritical foam. And it's a really good, like, typical trail ultra shoe. It's not quite up for like Speed Goat or the Rut, where you want something a little more low profile, which they make that as well. They make plenty of shoes for sure.
Yeah, no, it's a cool company. It's interesting, man. This week you get to see so much coming out of the Chamonix Valley with different brands dropping different shoes and stuff, and it's always cool to see, a lot of the new technology kind of coming around the corner, like, Hoka with, 15 new friggin' shoes and all these brands. It's kind of crazy.
Sure.
With the sport changing, like, what do you don't seem like a crazy outspoken person on the sport, so I'm curious to see, like, what, kind of get your perspective on it. Like, do you want to see this sport go to the Olympics? Like, what do you want to see out of the sport in the next 5 years as an athlete in it?
I mean, I think I'm excited about the growth, the professionalization. Yeah, it makes it interesting. I can understand the perspective of like maybe being hesitant or reminiscing on the old days, and I appreciate both sides. Like, I like to go to races that are, like Broken Arrow, that are this big festival and they're like a lot. They're fun for sure. And then it's also fun to go to Telluride, where like they've got a single speaker for the MC and like, things are more low key. And I don't think we're ever going to lose that side of the sport. So I'm not too concerned about like, oh, UTMB is going to take over the entire world. Like that's just not going to happen. So I'm optimistic. I don't think the Olympics is what we need personally. I think the analogy to mountain biking has been brought up quite a bit, and I think it would be kind of like that, where it's like this loop format. Yeah, I mean, if they could keep it to that, like a Golden Trail race with 3 different loops, like, that could be cool. But I mean, if you think about a cross country mountain bike race, it's like 1 loop times 10.
Yeah, it's terrible.
That's not trail running. Yeah, I just don't think we need it. I think we're seeing a lot of money relatively in coming in, and there's people are able to make a living at the very top of the sport. So I don't see like that we need to have the Olympics. The other thing is the Olympics can kind of create this like codependency, where if you lose it, then there's all these issues. So I would almost say we're better off like never getting down that path, but who knows? I certainly don't have any control over that matter.
I agree with you. Yeah, I think there's, man, I've been asking a lot of athletes this on the podcast just because out of pure curiosity to see what people think. And I think I always land on one thing that nobody brings up. It's that Olympic athletes in general don't make any money from anything. Like it's basically your name and likeness out there on TV rights and TV deals. But it's like you're not seeing any of the money from that. Maybe if you medal, right? Maybe you'll get a sponsorship. Right. It's kind of hard. So like all that money that's wrapped up in sponsorships and things like that and TV deals, very rarely do the athletes see a lot of it unless it's attracting, different types of sponsorships in different ways. So that's where I struggle. I want athletes because you guys don't like, there's not, the career is not very long in this sport, so I want athletes to make as much money as they possibly can, if they can, because a lot of people don't have backups. Right. Some people do, some people don't. It depends. But yeah, I think it's my big thing is like, if we do become an Olympic sport, I also don't see it being like, I see it almost being like rock climbing or cycling, or now that skimo is involved, like I see it being like a small subsect of the sport, like a different discipline. Totally. Whereas like for cycling, for instance, like the sort of TDF is like still the biggest part of that sport. And like a lot of the grand stages are like still the biggest part of cycling.
Yeah.
And I see like our UTMB then would probably still be the biggest part of it. I would hope or Worlds would be the bigger parts of the sport as opposed to the Olympics for us. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with all that. And it's just a very diverse sport, so hard to pin it down into one category.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's the dirt bag. I also believe the dirt bag stuff has got to survive. Like the little show up and there's just people writing down the times and there's not even timing mats. Like there's absolutely a place for that in the sport. Like that would be sad if we lost that. So
yeah.
Where do you see yourself? Like what are your goals for the rest of the sport? Like what do you still have left? I mean, you've done so much. You've been on the podium of some gigantic races. You've accomplished a ton. Like what else do you set forth to do in this sport? Like what do you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing is I hope to be able to do it for a very long time. It's hard to say how long I'll be able to stay or improve on my level, because coming into it relatively late at like 26 and then kind of getting more into it, not really until I was like 28, 9. I feel like I'm still improving every year, at least in certain elements of the sport, if not overall. Which has been cool. And I realized that like now that's not going to last forever, or maybe too many more years. I think in the immediate time frame, I'm like, yeah, this is sort of my prime. I should take advantage of it. So I do want to shift this focus, not shift it, but at least take some opportunities to race internationally the next few years a bit. And then I don't know, I like to just kind of keep exploring and being able to find new levels, and that can be both like on the result sheet as well as like, I think that one of the most interesting things about the sport is having those days where you're deep into the race and you're like I kind of get an out of body experience sometimes where I'm like, wow, how am I still doing this right now? Like however many hours in, and like I'm just trucking along. And that doesn't happen every time, but like that's such a cool place to be at, where you get to kind of see a new limit to what your body can do. So that keeps me fired up.
Would you say that's your why?
Yeah, I think that probably is my biggest why, is like challenging myself to find new limits, continue to push that. And that's why, yeah, racing is great, because it motivates you to keep striving towards that.
Is there any athletes you see who inspires you in the sport right now?
Oh man, I mean, there's a lot of athletes that inspire me for sure. Yeah, like here, seeing Caleb win Western States this year, that was like, it wasn't shocking, but it was still mind blowing, right? To see him in front of Killian, he's an inspiration to everyone. But he's been very dedicated to the sport and just had this progression. But that's cool to see, like I said, back to the, like, seeing people that we think of as local runners bring it to the world level. That's been super cool. Obviously, yeah, it's UTMB week. I haven't got through the results yet, so no, don't tell me anything on OCC, but I've been watching some of the live stream.
All right, I'm not going to say anything. I would hop on. Yeah, I would watch the last 5 minutes of. Well, the women's race was dominant, but I would watch the last 5 minutes of the men's race, and that's all I'm going to say. It's kind of wild.
Well, as I was chipping away at emails, I was kind of working my way from early on. But yeah, I mean, it's like there were two Nordic skiers in the podium at like Sophia Lockley's in there. Sam Hendry, like the commentators are like, who's this dude? I mean, they know who he is, but he hasn't raced in a while. He's going to med school. And then David Norris just popped into the picture in third. And that's as far as I made it so far. So I think, yeah, that's why it's hard for me to say like what one person inspires you, because it's like more and more I keep seeing these people that I'm like, I've raced with, I've hung out with, that are just like all of a sudden up at the very top of an elite field. And that's pretty cool. It makes the sport so interesting to know the characters, like actually know. It's not like a football team where you're like, oh, I think I know this person. Like, you literally hang out with some of these people that are in the mix.
It's weird, right? It's like, yeah, it's almost like, I don't want to say imposter syndrome because that's not the right word. It's surreal. Like our sport's kind of, it has been so tiny and now it's getting significantly bigger, and you know these people, and it's weird, right? Like, I don't know. Like it's very strange. I don't know. It's that's the best way I can describe it. Last question. Curious. Well, I already asked you, like, who inspires you in sport? Who inspires you outside of sport? Like, where do you get, like, is it friends, is it family? Like, what drives that?
Yeah, I mean, building on that, and as well as in sport, but like from a different perspective, I've always been really inspired by people who manage to be like successful athletes, but then are also like have families, have these incredible careers, balance all these things, and are just like giving so much to the community. I think of Jared Campbell here, Luke Nelson and Pocatella, the DeRays, who are both, ER docs, and like they all have families. They all give back. Like Luke, I don't know how Luke does it. He's a professional athlete. He's a PA. He's instructing wilderness medicine. He's putting on a race.
He's race directing a big race too, like not a small
big
one.
Race. Yeah. So that's somebody, Luke, that's high on my list of, I'm like, that's so incredible that he's able to do all that. And like, it's such a more meaningful contribution than just being fast. Like, that's great. And that does inspire some people. I get inspired by people just racing fast, but to have that full breadth is, I think, pretty cool, and something to strive for.
No, I agree. I think it's a beautiful place to end it. I just don't know how people do it, man. Like Luke with all that stuff, like how he's a husband, he's a father, like, dude. And then on top of that, to do 9 million things and still like find time to do like your own thing as a sport. Like, yeah, I admire people like that because I can't quite figure it out. So I don't know. It's always cool. Adam, this was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man. I hope this is the first of many, and wishing you the best of luck in a few weeks at the Rut. And yeah, man, we'll be in touch.
Right on. Thanks. That was a fun time.
Thanks, man. Yeah. What'd you guys think? Oh, man. Thanks for tuning into this episode. Want to thank Adam so much for joining us. Really great conversation, and absolutely wishing him the best of luck as he takes on the Rut next week and as he finishes up his 2025 season. Guys, you can find Adam on Instagram. You can give him a follow, and you're going to find him at Ski Loomis. That's SKILOOMIS. That's one word. And it's going to be linked in the show notes for you guys to give him a follow. He's got some sweet photos, both of him on podiums and him running climbing some pretty ridiculous ridges, and just playing in the mountains. It's all good stuff there. So, guys, before we get going, hop on social media, hop on wherever you get your podcasts, whether it be Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. Please give us a 5-star rating and review. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give it a share. We'd love to get this out to the world, and we can continue to tell these stories of these amazing athletes and preview some of the coolest races on the planet. So, also, last but not least, if you are in the market for a new vest or a new belt or any type of hydration solution, Ultimate Direction, our partner, has you covered. Use code SteepStuffPod. That's right, SteepStuffPod, one word, on your cart for 25% off your purchase. And they dropped all kinds of good new stuff recently. A brand new pole quiver, as well as a new race and ultra vest. Pretty dynamic and some beautiful colorways. Some definitely worth checking out. So hop on over to ultimatedirection.com. Use code SteepStuffPod in one word. Very, very, very last but not least, if you guys happen to be on the Front Range in Colorado next week, September the 11th on Thursday, at 5:30 p.m., we are going to be at the La Sportiva Boulder store, not just for a group run, but we're going to be doing a live podcast with the legend himself, Mr. Anton Krpichka. If you guys happen to be on the Front Range and are interested in looking for something to do on Thursday night, go grab dinner in Boulder, get yourself a group run, and pop on over to the La Sportiva Boulder store for a live recording. You can pop into the show notes as well to RSVP. There should be, I'm going to embed a little link in there for the Eventbrite for you guys to RSVP. If you don't do that, just pop in. Not a big deal. Would love to see you guys all out there to support. Really looking forward to interviewing one of my heroes in the sport, which is kind of crazy. So here we are. So guys, hope you enjoy it. Thanks so much.